If you want to be able to step up your envelope addressing game, this is the right video for you. Hey, I'm Becca with the Happy Ever Crafter, and first things first, if you have not watched my envelope addressing 101 video up here, you need to do that first. In that video, we go over the basics of how to do some really simple envelopes, and I teach you the actual foundations for being able to center an address and left justify and right justify. Those things I'm not going to be touching on in this video, so you're going to want to know them first. That video also gives you an envelope template like this that you can download and print off, so go check that out if you haven't already. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make these 3 envelopes. These are the finished products, and they're some of my favorites that I use, just some standard things that I use to decorate my envelopes when I'm sending out snail mail. All right, first things first, let's just talk about the pesky post office rules. What can you and can't you put on an envelope that you're going to try and mail? So I am absolutely not an expert on this. I don't know all of the rules. I actually sort of just do whatever I want on envelopes and cross my fingers and hope that it'll work. But that's not the best advice, and I do know that there are some rules, so I am going to let you know the ones that I'm aware of, but I strongly recommend that you actually look into it yourself depending on where you live. So the first rule obviously is to check with your local post office. You can usually check online too for most of the guidelines, but you could also just go in and ask them. This is especially important if you're doing like a stack of 500 envelopes that you're going to mail for a bride and they absolutely have to arrive. When I say that I'm not super picky about it, it's because I don't do that. The most I ever send is like 2 envelopes, but it's different if you're doing wedding invites and you're getting paid for this. You need to know the rules, so make sure you look into it yourself. The second thing is I strongly recommend actually going into a physical post office to mail decorated envelopes. This way they can tell you, if your envelope is a little bit too big or if they think the writing on it isn't legible, they know that it might not be able to go through the machine to be read and that it might actually take extra postage for it to be mailed properly because someone has to hand sort it. The third is to be mindful of what colors you're using on your envelopes. I pretty much try and stick with black and white, but if you're using color, I've heard that red is not accepted in post office machines, so try and stay away from red. And if you're using colored envelopes like this pink one, try and have a really contrasting color. So again, either black or white, not like a lighter pink or something like that might be harder to see the contrast between the two. The fourth thing is to try and stick with a calligraphy name, but block lettered address. The more legible the address is, the more likely it's going to get delivered, and the more likely that the post person won't be annoyed with trying to read your calligraphy. Lastly, don't go overboard with your decorations. You want to leave space for stickers and stamps, and if you do end up going overboard with decorations, just know that it's probably going to get covered up with a sticker, and you just kind of have to accept that because it's gonna happen. So those are the things that I keep in mind when doing my addresses, and I've literally never had an issue. They always arrive, they've never been returned to me, they've never been lost, and they've never been just like flat out rejected. That being said though, again, check with your own post office because you are not allowed to come back to me and say that my rules didn't work for you. But with all of those rules in place, let's just get into playing with these envelopes. So this first one I'm gonna do is just on Kraft paper. This is like a brown, and it's sort of gritty paper, so you don't wanna use your best brush pen on it. Again, if you haven't watched the Envelopes 101 video, make sure you check that out first because I'm gonna sort of skim over the things that you might be asking, and they're probably covered in that video if you're a beginner. So we're just jumping in assuming that you sort of know what you're doing and that you're just trying to step up your game. So again, this first one is on Kraft paper. I'm using a Tombow Fudonosuke, a couple of different sizes of micron pen, and a Uniball Signo. This is, or Sino, however the heck you say that. This is a white gel pen. So with this one, I'm gonna do my name in calligraphy, my letters in block letters for the address, and then I'm gonna add a fun little banner on the top. So the first thing I'm gonna do is write my address, and if you watched the 101 video, you would have gotten this envelope template. So I'm just putting this down here on the bottom, and I'm gonna move it fairly close to the bottom of my envelope because I know that I wanna have a banner at the top. So I'm gonna center it as much as I can. My envelope is a little smaller than this template, but should be pretty good. And again, if you watched that original video, you would know that I always start from the bottom up because I know that I want to have enough room for my address no matter what. If you're feeling really comfortable, you can just jump right in, but I'm gonna do mine in pencil first. This one is going to James Stewart, and I have his address written out in front of me, so I'm just gonna jump in and do it. And again, if you need tips on helping you center this or anything, go watch that 101 video, but I'm just gonna do it. Okay, so my address is written out, and now I'm gonna add his name in. Again, my secret weapon, the laser level. I'll link to it down below if you want to get one for yourself. Now, if you need to, you can obviously play with this until you're happy with it, but I'm pretty good with that. So now I've got my name and my address, and now I'm gonna do my favorite part, which is the banner. Now I wanna keep in mind that I'm probably gonna have stamps in this general area. So I'll just block that off. And now I know I can use this top part for a banner, and I'm gonna use the words "please deliver to." I mean, the post person knows to deliver it, but I think it's just a fun way to fill space. So I'm gonna draw a really simple banner. If you've never drawn banners before, I'm not gonna explain what I'm doing, I'm just gonna do it. So I have a tutorial up here on banners. Actually, I have 2 tutorials on banners, so check that out. But I'm just gonna jump in and write this, or add this in. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the way this looks. Now I'm gonna go over it with my micron pens and my Tombow Fudenosuke. So for the banner, I'm gonna use my 0.5 micron pen and go over the edges here. Now I'm gonna do the name. And then I'll use my 0.3 micron to do the address. Get rid of any of the pencil marks that are showing through. And now that I see sort of the weight of all of these things, I do think I wanna make my banner a little bit heavier. So I'm just grabbing a little bit of a heavier Sharpie, and I'm gonna go over it one more time. Okay, now I'm gonna start doing a couple extra little embellishment things. So I'm going to take my 0.1 micron, and I'm gonna add a little bit of embellishment on this banner. Again, this information is all in my banners tutorial, so I'm not gonna get too in depth on what I'm doing here. And then I'm gonna actually write the words on my banner. So I'm gonna write "please," like PLZ, "deliver to" on here. You could do this in pencil first if you want. I'm just pretty comfortable. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with my banner. And the last thing I wanna do is take my Uniball Signo or Signo or Sino or however the heck you say it, and I'm gonna add some embellishment to my letters here. But actually, before I do that, I think I'm gonna thicken some of the downstrokes on this to make it a little more bold. I feel like one of the things that people freak out about with envelopes is things having to be perfect. I usually just kind of add things as I go and fill up space and see what looks good. And the really cool thing about kind of embellishing and adding stuff to envelopes is that all you're doing is really using stuff like these banners to fill in empty space. So even if you screw up the spacing on your address, if ever it wasn't perfectly centered or it was a little too far to the left or a little too far to the right, you just, you know, sort of learn what pieces you can add in to fill things up. And honestly, no matter what you do, a custom envelope like this is always gonna look really awesome and impress whoever it gets sent to, because most people are not used to getting an envelope like that, or actually envelopes handwritten at all anymore, really, unless it's like a wedding invite or something. It's really rare for people to get snail mail, so not too hard to impress people. All right, so my letters are a little darker now. I'm gonna take my Uniball and do some shadows on it. So if you've never learned how to do shadows, I also have a tutorial on that. I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but I'll link to it up above because there's a little bit of like understanding that needs to happen if you're gonna do shadows like this. But they do really make things pop. So if you know how to do it, it's a great thing to add. All right, and there you have it. So now I have my address all written out, it's embellished a little bit, and I have my "please deliver to" banner. If you wanna add anything else, you're welcome to, but this is pretty much how I leave it, and this is one of the most standard envelopes that I do. So, oh, the other thing to mention is I would put my return address on the back, on this back flap here. All right, the next envelope I'm gonna do is on this pink one, and I'm gonna use my white gel pen again, the Uniball Signo, and I'm gonna do faux calligraphy. So if you've never done faux calligraphy, I'll link to that video up here. But this one's gonna be pretty straightforward. I'm gonna do your average address left justified, and then I'm going to show you how you can add some florals in to fill up the empty space. So again, I'm using my addressing template, and I'm going to have it pretty much in the center, and I'm just going to jump right in with my lettering with my gel pen. Okay, so address is written. Now I'm going to use my laser level again, give myself a line, and I'm actually going to write the first name in pencil first because you want to make sure that it actually fits before you go on to there with gel pen. So this is for Casey Hunter. Okay, I'm happy with the placement of that. Now, one thing to note, if you're using a white gel pen, make sure your pencil is really faint underneath because sometimes you can see through the gel pen. And now I'm going to do faux calligraphy with my gel pen. All right, so my address is written and the name is on there, and now I just sort of feel like this is lacking something. There's gonna be stamps up here, and there'll probably be like a post office stamp up here as well. So I just wanna fill something in this bottom corner here. Now I have a lot of tutorials on how to doodle flowers, so I'm not gonna go over exactly what I'm doing. I'm just gonna show you filling it in the corner. Now when things like this happen where my petal would have overlapped with my lettering, I actually just leave a gap and I find it looks really nice. It sort of like brings it all together. So don't be afraid of overlapping your letters a little bit. So as I go here, I'm realizing that I actually really like the way it looks when it's all overlapping. So I'm just going to carry it all the way down into this corner. The same pattern. And that's it for that one. So I'm really happy with the way that looks. I do want to mention though, this is definitely one that you would want to take to the post office to have it mailed because this might get a little bit confusing for the post people to read. So if you bring it into the post office, they might tell you you need extra postage for it to be hand canceled or hand managed. Or they might put a sticker with the address rewritten on it so that they can use the sticker instead of having to read the envelope. The third one I'm gonna do is gonna be really banner based. So I'm gonna draw a big banner on the whole thing and write the address inside that. So if you haven't looked at my banner video, definitely go do that and then come back to this one. So I'm gonna use a ruler and I'm gonna definitely do this one in pencil because I know that sometimes I screw up my banners. So I know I'm gonna want 4 lines in my banner. One for the street, one for the state, and then one for the zip code, and obviously one for the person's name. So this one's not going to be in calligraphy. Okay, so I've got the outline of my banner. Now I'm going to go over it with pen. And I'm actually going to do this just freehand because sometimes I find that if you do it with pen, it looks a little too perfect. You want your banner to look sort of whimsical. So even though the lines are straight, they don't have to be absolutely perfect. Okay, so my banner is drawn. Now I'm gonna really carefully write in the address, and it's gonna have to be pretty small on this one because those banners, the bands of my banner are pretty small. And so I'm actually gonna do this in pencil first because, again, it has to be pretty precise, and I wanna make sure that the address looks okay before I put it in pen. Okay, now I go over my address with my micron pen. And now I'm just going to add some embellishments to the banner. All right, so sometimes when I do banners like this on my envelope, I will take it to the next level by adding even more detail to the banner, some dashed lines around the edges, or I'll add some florals that are coming out from behind the banner. With this one, I'm actually really happy with it. I think that it looks perfect just the way it is, and if I add any more, it might look a little bit overwhelming. So the stamps are gonna go here, and I'm just gonna leave that as the whole centerpiece of the envelope. So that's it for now with these. Essentially, the main thing to remember is use the 101 video to learn how to actually do centering or left justifying or right justifying and understand how to actually do the addressing. And then the options are endless for what you can do with it afterwards. So adding little banners and flowers and stuff like that, or using banners and flowers as space fillers so that there's less pressure to make your address totally perfect. If you want more inspiration on different ways to do addresses like this, make sure you check out my friend Lainey on Instagram. Her handle is Design by Lainey, and look up the hashtag No More Boring Envelopes. She has started a challenge where people post all their different kinds of decorated envelopes, and there are so many options on there. Every time I need inspiration, I always go look at it, so make sure that you check that out if you want some more ideas. Hit subscribe on the channel because I put 2 videos out every single week, and I'll see you next time.